check is it the exact correction or something. So at that time I was using the inspect. So how to use Docker at that time?
I'm sorry. Can you repeat your question again, Tanjun?
Yes, sir. Sir, I was mm, okay. Sir, I was working on Meshery.html. So at that time, I want to check if my changes is right or wrong. So can I use Docker at that particular time?
Yes, you can. If you're talking about the doc site and you're talking about
Yeah,
Meshery.html, you should be able
yeah.
to run the Docker and test it on your local. Absolutely.
Sir, but I don't know how to use.
That's all right. You know what? Maybe after this call, if you have a few minutes, spend some time with me, and I'll show it to you.
Okay, sir. So after this meeting.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Hey, Shubham. I just saw your chat message. Welcome back.
Hey guys, hey Subham, Garish. All right. Just having a chat here with Jesus in the Meshery channel. He asked a question that I have often kind of pondered myself. So let me just make a note of it in the meeting minutes so we can use the collective group knowledge to see if we can figure this question out. Okay, that's interesting. Wrong screen. Hello, very good. We've got we've got Nuno Uno on the call today. That's fantastic. So
Hello, hello.
hello, and actually,
No, that's not me who wrote it. I wrote my name perfectly.
I'm just okay.
Yeah, me, master word.
Yeah. Master DocX. Oh, cool. Okay. So the topic that Jesus was bringing up was about logic involved in the GitHub actions and the workflows that are defined there, and our ability to um, disable particular checks based on whether or not certain code was changed or not. So anyway, it's a topic. We'll come to it. All right, good deal. So we've got. Did we get everyone? Oh, okay, Meshery IO. Yeah, that's a good. So Subham, you've got a topic on Meshery IO and Slack notifications. Who else has got topics? Be sure to toss them up if you have them. And Anand is with us as well.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good afternoon. Okay, we're 5 after. Let's start. We've got some topics. Well, let's pick off some easy ones maybe. Down here on Meshery IO and Slack notifications. So Subham, I'm going to fill in some words here and say that I think what you're asking or highlighting is that for activities that happen in GitHub. I think you have two things. One, activities that happen in GitHub, do they show up in the Meshery notifications channel? Then the other thought there is, okay, does activities on the Meshery.io Twitter account, did those show up in the Meshery channel? And if you had a different use case, then feel free to mention that, Subham. Meshery.io GitHub repo activity. Yeah. All right. Does anyone know the answer? I think the answer right now to this one is not currently, but it sounds like, would anyone not be interested in that type of activity? Okay, let me let me change this question and ask all of you guys this. And I think we just had. Did we have someone else join? No. Okay. Okay, good. Okay, so let me present the question to you guys a little bit differently. All right, so there are a number of activities that are potentially of interest to people, potentially of interest to you guys. So one is things that happen on GitHub, on the repository, across the repositories. For me, I'm interested in GitHub things because it's an area of a responsibility for me to make sure to pay attention to the things that are going on and be responsive to them. And so I think everyone in this call is a member of that Slack channel, and I'm just bringing it up here just to, as an example. So for me, one of the things that happens is that it kind of part of my daily tasks, or as and when I can get to it multiple times a day, is to go and see if there's any new notifications in here. If there are things that are maybe pending feedback that I need to give, or help that people are asking for, and so it's something that I reference as part of like from a GitHub perspective, the flow. A lot of times, sometimes you guys will message me or Garish or each other independently, and I'll get a message from you saying, hey, I've updated this, will you take a look? And that's great. You could also know that if you don't message me, I absolutely, as part of my flow, pay attention to what's happening in here. So I'll get either a ping in here and or an email, because I'm watching, the GitHub. I'm watching each GitHub repo. So activity that happens, I generally get an email about. So I'm saying that because you're welcome to continue to ping me. That's fantastic. Or also know that you don't have to take that extra step if you don't want to, because I'll be seeing it. So that's one set of actions and interesting things that happen that people might want to know about. There's another one around Twitter. There's another one, and there's two accounts there. There's the Layer 5 account, there's the Meshery account. I think right now I believe what's happening here is I think this is only set to notify whenever a new follower of Layer 5 occurs. That might be nice to see that for Meshery. There's a bit of a different set of interactions that happens when someone interfaces with, I think I showed this last week actually, when someone interfaces with, there's a different Slack Twitter integration. When there's activity against Layer 5, it just puts a notification like this. And so that's interesting. When someone signs up for MailChimp, that's maybe interesting just for you guys to understand. I'm sorry, not MailChimp, but when they sign up for the newsletter, that might be interesting. I think I hope it feels good to each of you because you're putting in work here, and it lets you know that people are interested and they're signing up. I think last time we talked about this, I recall now that I had said what might make sense, what might be helpful to you guys is if every now and again we sort of show those stats, or if you're able to reference those stats yourselves. One of those stats is something like this. This is, I've shown this on a previous call. This is a metric that tracks how many people have used, how many new users to Meshery have there been over time. From March to now, this is showing the cumulative total. So there's a little less than 220 that have signed up, or rather that have used Meshery, signed in, done the social authentication. There's a bunch of stats, and the reason I'm digressing here is to say that I think Subham raised a good question, and my question back to each of you, I think, is, would you like to see social notifications inside the Meshery notifications channel, or would you rather, or is it an appropriate juncture to split out social notifications into another channel? So there would be two channels, kind of one that's GitHub centric, another one that's Twitter centric. Potentially inside that Twitter centric one, we would put in updates around when someone subscribes to the YouTube channel. I was going to pull up an example, but when there's 28 subscribers to our YouTube channel, and whenever someone subscribes, there's a Slack notification that happens as well. When someone signs up for the mailing list, when they subscribe to YouTube, when someone logs in, all of these are statistics and things that we're tracking. Okay, so the question is, would you guys like to see all those in the same notification channel, or do you feel like that's too much and they should be split out? Okay, so Subham is voting, I think, for maybe to separate the two. So one GitHub-centric for coding and contribution, the other one around more social subscription-based activities. Any other opinions there? I think, did anyone else say something? And for Anand as well, I think he's casting his vote for kind of two separate channels. So if there's no dissenting opinions, then probably what we'll do is get a social/buzz channel going on. And maybe the reason I wouldn't call it Meshery social is because it'll probably have layer 5 things in there as well, which I think are interesting to you guys. I'm assuming that they're interesting. This reminds me that on this topic, we've spoken in the past about the notion that there's a number of statistics that are being tracked. And I think I've shown some of you over time, or in the past, I've shown the same graph that I just showed a second ago, which is where we're tracking how many times people have published results on a per week basis, how many times existing users are logging back in, and how many new users are signing up. This graph is non-cumulative. It's just on a weekly basis. How many new signups, how many logins happened that week? And it becomes pretty obvious when it is that we're hosting a workshop, and it's obvious on the weeks that we're not. We still have new signups happening. But my point again here is, let me ask this explicitly. Are you guys interested in seeing these statistics? Are these statistics meaningful to you? And if so, then we'll facilitate you guys being able to see those. And if they're not, it's totally fine. I get it if they're not. I'll just say that one of the statistics is a cumulative total here that some of you are familiar with because some of you have worked on this. And it's just the total number of times that someone has run a performance test. So some of the statistics are already out there. But, okay, so for Gungeon, okay, and for Subum, okay. I'll let the others of you kind of vote inside the meeting minutes. But it sounds like probably for at least two of you, those are interesting. Okay, moving on. Logic involved in GitHub Actions. So Jesus asked the question. He said in the Slack channel, you can read it, but it was, it was the notion that it's, for me and probably for him, that it's slightly unnerving when you submit a PR and GitHub is going through, it's executing each of the build steps, or each of the, maybe build step is the wrong, but each of the CI steps. And one of those is linting check, and sometimes that linting check will fail. We're not currently blocking merging of a PR based on that. But sometimes you'll go make a change in one area and you'll get a failure on the lint check. And it's not any code that you changed, it's just an existing lint issue. And so his question was, is there an easy way to configure those CI checks such that they only check against code that you've changed? And I think the general answer is no, there's not, because if you change some code in one area, it may have a really adverse effect in other areas. Now, it may not be a linting issue, but you may have totally broken the rest of Meshery. There is a little bit of an answer here, I think, that can be helpful, and it's something like, can we, if all that you've made a change to is Markdown, like is the README, or is within the documentation section, can we flag and disable the lint check of Go code? Because your Markdown changes don't affect the Go code at all. That it's either passing lint or lint check or not. That's an interesting question. It might be one that we can facilitate. By we, I mean if GitHub Actions are capable of that. I don't know. So I think Jesus is going to look into this. And then, okay, so that's that one. Anybody have any comments or insight on that?
So it's definitely a good area to invest time in. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I'm going to try to take some notes on what I just said while, that's funny. Okay, Garish might be able to take over the other part. So maybe not. I guess here, let me just say this, that I had said last time, I took an action item last time. I think I took two. One of them was to put all the new logos inside of the community drive, and that's done. Can anyone not see those inside the community drive? So I'm going to bring it up here to make sure we're all on the same page. The reason that it's somewhat important that you all can, well, a couple of reasons. One is because you might have use for them somewhere. Two is that the old gray matrix style cube that you've become familiar with, it is in need of being displaced in a number of areas. It is in need of being displaced with the new Meshery and the new Layer 5 logos. So all of you have access to the Meshery Google Drive, Team Drive, Community Drive. So Meshery. In there, there's an assets folder. There's flyers that some of you are familiar with. I'm curious, right now, are you able to see a preview of this flyer? Does that go through? Garish, anybody?
I think we have seen the previous version of flyer.
Okay, no. My question was, can you see a? Yeah, very good. So you can see the preview of it, like when I click to preview.
Yeah. University of Engineering and Management, good education, good jobs. Let me see what you're showing.
Okay.
If you open it on your site, maybe.
Yeah. Oh, and that's my question. Is like on Mac, you can do a quick preview by pressing spacebar, and it sounds like when I do that, you guys can't see it in the share in the Hangouts.
No, indeed.
Okay.
Yeah, it looked like something started, but then it looked like it was then gone. So
got
yeah,
it. Okay. Cool.
But through the web page, I can see the flyer.
Oh, okay. Very good.
From Google Drive on Chrome or Edgeum, okay, in my case.
So, very good. So, the reason that, again, another reason why it's important for you guys to understand where these are and have access to them is because part of my ask is, if you're inclined to help here, it would be great. Each of the GitHub repos, most of them have the old logo. Many of the Google Docs that are in the drive, when you open them up, including our meeting minutes, I believe, it has well, actually our meeting minutes is missing a logo, but it should have the Meshery logo in there. So if you can, yeah, these are ready now to be propagated. And so if you can, yeah, use these and take these around and displace old logos with these. Understand that there's duplication between the web versions, which is an RGB color, and the print versions, which are CMYK, so slightly different coloring, because when you print things out, they come out slightly different color. And so if you go to print something out, you want to look for the logos inside the print folder. If you're going to share it online, probably look inside the web folder. There is a couple of things for social, and this is more like, most of you are aware that there is a Layer 5 LinkedIn company page. And on that company page, we had to create a different version of the image. The same thing for YouTube and so forth. And so I'm glad that everybody knows what those are. Cool. All right. What else? Let's go back to the meeting minutes. Okay. So good. So that one's knocked out. Everybody's got access. I think I still have an action here. I need to put all of the print versions, the CMYK versions, into the drive. Now, all of you, I think, know Jill or Jajillery. She's one of our community managers here. She has been working toward, given that we've had your addresses, she's been working toward taking some of the buttons and maybe some of the bookmarks and things and sending them to you guys. I think she's maybe thinking better of that than my initial suggestion, and she's working on some things. So your feel free to ping her, ask her about it, or give her some feedback. I think she's that would be helpful, because I think she's trying to she wants to. It's the season of giving, is what she would say. Christmas is around the corner. It's also the time that we want to recognize some of the things that you guys have been doing. So she's, if you have a mind for it, go poke her and ask. And also if it's not, if getting a button or getting a sticker or things like that is mostly just swag that you'll throw into the trash or what have you, then just send her a quick note that it's no offense at all. Just, hey, I don't do stickers, or I don't do buttons, or like that way you won't get junk mail. One less thing to throw away. Okay, another topic Subham mentioned. So we've been working on establishing a more a real partnership with UEM Jaipur, and I had gotten an email from Professor Das, and copied were a couple of other professors from the university. It was a fantastic note from the university saying that they were, it was a warm response. They had embraced our suggestions around how it is that we can partner up, and some activities that they can help facilitate, in terms of sending some flyers around, maybe helping facilitate some space, space at the school where you guys can do some demos, and where we can, all of the things that I had suggested. The last one that they're still contemplating and trying to figure out is how to assign. I think they desire to give you guys extra credit in your courses for contributions. They're just still thinking about it. They're saying, hey, give us some time to think about that and how that would work. But generally, it was a very positive response, and so I may forward that around to you guys so that you can see the response. We're also going to follow up and begin to send over some resources, and that is some flyers that they can send around. We're going to try to figure out, how we can get some event space, how we might put on an online event, just for UAM Jaipur or students in the region, such that that will provide a venue for each of you from Jaipur or from the surrounding area to demo, or Nuno, or actually really anyone, because it'll be virtual, for you guys to demo some things that you've done with Meshery and show that to other students that would join. So it was a good. So Subham had asked if we'd gotten a response, and we did. It was a warm response, and so we need to follow up on the UAM Jaipur partnership. And my hope there is that we're then able to take that type of partnership and spread it to a couple of other universities, so that people can cut their teeth on open source.
Yeah, nice. Anyone can reuse either the video of last week, maybe. I think it was a more in-depth Windows training. So it's already, let's say, done. Or if anyone in part of the partnership needs like a demo, kind of live demo like I did, then just feel free to contact me. I have a daily job, so I won't be able to pull out. But if it's like around this time, then it's okay.
Nice. Okay, that's very helpful. Nuno, as a matter of fact, the demo that you'd given last time, that might be something that we'd want to not only potentially use here, also seek your participation in this, the live demo, but also that might be something we want to pull out as a separate video clip and have just as its own video clip on the YouTube channel.
Yeah, I mean, I did it for the community anyway. So
Yeah.
everything I do, and if it's useful, you can just reuse it.
Yeah.
No copyright attached.
We'll have to, but actually, or that would be part of the point for me though, is that there is that I do want for people to see that it was done by you and link and have it linked back to you. So sometimes you guys will see if I'm ever,
So I hope you guys can.
if we're ever tagging you and you don't like it, let me know, because we try to tag people as and when it makes sense. So. But yeah, okay, good. That was that topic. We still need some things on. I think my other action item was some GitHub training. This is actually a good one to follow up with the university on, because I think that that would be broadly beneficial. Okay. Okay, who else has topics today? And Garish, can you help me take notes here, like on some of the stuff that are going on?
Sounds good.
Okay, I'm gonna tell you guys about some recent events and some goings-ons, some happenings. But I'm mostly gonna do that as filler for one of you raising your hand and saying that you have something to, you have a question or something to demo. So next week is AWS reInvent. Anybody going? other than me? Anybody on the call ever been to reInvent, or anyone watched the keynotes online? They're free.
I do watch few keynotes online.
Do you? Oh, Pavan. Okay, very good. Yeah, and Pavan, that makes sense actually, given your focus and interest. Yeah, I'd done a recording a little while ago at reInvent last year. I'm not doing one this year, but it'll be a good time for it, kind of like KubeCon. It's a little bit of a good time for Meshery, in so much as that we'll be meeting with some folks. There's a few different tech companies that have expressed interest in having some conversations around Meshery, and so it'll be convenient that they'll be at reInvent. So I don't think I can share all of that here, but let's see. Other things that are going on is the layer 5 itself is just this last week joined the CNCF. Boom. And so I expect next week the layer 5 logo will be up on the CNCF page. So that'll be great. So there's a couple of things that we're looking to do here, and they're actually big initiatives, some of which I've described in the past, and others of which I've been hesitant to describe just because they're large enough and complex enough that I'm not quite sure how much each of you could potentially help. But let me bring up a slide and share it with you and see if any aspect of it resonates. And to the extent that it does, maybe there's an opportunity for you to jump in. So this slide is going to say that there are really, in the world of service meshes, there are 3 abstractions going on.
Lee, are you sharing something? Because we are only seeing the community notes.
Thanks for calling that out. No, not just yet. I'm about to.
Okay.
And so okay, so now can everyone see the slide?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Show ruler. How do I? I'm having a hard time here. Okay, well, anyway, point of the slide is that we've talked about SMI, the service mesh interface. It's kind of like Terraform for, well, it's a lowest common denominator API abstraction. It's a spec for service meshes that deploy on Kubernetes. There's another one that we talked about in the past. This other one is called Hamlet. It's for federating service meshes. And Meshery is there as well. There's another one that we're going to go create. Meshery, the project itself, is going to go create. And this will, in doing so, this will actually create a new Linux Foundation project itself. So everyone's familiar with the Linux Foundation, at least in so much as the Linux Foundation is the overarching governing body for the CNCF. The CNCF is one of many projects that the Linux Foundation hosts. And well, let me see if I can. So about 6 months ago, the Continuous Delivery Foundation was created. Now it has some things that are familiar to each of you probably. It has things like Spinnaker, like Jenkins X, Tecton. It actually has Jenkins as well. I bet some of you didn't know that this was here. You might have expected to find some of these open source projects inside of the CNCF. Well, they're not. They're actually in a different project called the CD Foundation. The CNCF, so my point is the CNCF is one of many projects out there. Now it's confusing because in these slides, the Linux Foundation is listing some of the CNCF sub-projects. It's a little bit confusing. But my point is there's a new one that's about to pop up, and it will be formed around the Service Mesh Performance Benchmark. And that's the spec that you can see inside of the Layer 5 repo. Inside the Layer 5 org. One of the repos is called Service Mesh Performance Benchmark. We're going to take it and open up a Linux Foundation project around it. And we're going to invite Google and IBM and HashiCorp and Microsoft and VMware and many others to come and participate. Part of what and so the reason I'm mentioning this to on the call is, and I've mentioned it in the past, I'm mentioning it on the call because this is a big initiative, and I haven't spent a lot of time on it in the past because I don't know how inclined anyone is to necessarily help, but it's worth describing that part of the vision here is that let me pull it up, of the performance test results that are being collected, of these 500-ish that have been collected, that we will be indexing and performing statistical analysis on them. And this is what that spec is going to be about, that performance benchmark spec. It's going to be about standardizing the way in which these are run so that these tests can be compared over time and that these tests can be compared across meshes in a vendor neutral way, in a way in which are governed by an open source foundation. As that happens, we'll need to more or less have a separate site that talks really just all about this and the ways in which the performance tests are being done, the various results that come out and why they come out, how much overhead MTLS has, encrypting your communication versus not, how much overhead there is in distributed tracing sampling, all these things. It gets very detailed, right? So just like we had recently, each of you have been helping recently create the Meshery IO site, there will need to be another site for performance. So if you're interested in that stuff, that initiative, please raise your hand. We'll have a further discussion. Anybody else have topics, something to demo? There's been some issues that have been opened, some that have been closed. Anything good to specifically to chat through? And then,
Hello, sir.
hang on.
Yeah, actually, last week we talked about the creating a new issue for Meshery about that info that Logos is printing on the screen when we run the commands.
Right.
So I was asking about how much details do we want, like just info and its info or its error or its warning, like that's only the thing we want to print, or is it something else that we want to print on?
Yeah, good question. Anand, you don't happen to have your terminal right there to share, do you?
No, actually not.
Okay.
I don't have a good connection, so I use my mobile phone.
Okay, no problem. So let me share here. Hopefully I'm sharing my terminal and everyone can see it. So Anand, to recap, you're working on, I think you're working on a command Meshery CTL version, and part of what we were debating is the formatting of the text and what all should be shown. So if I go in, so I was going to pull up your version of Meshery CTL. I don't know that I have it. Anand, do you have the issue number that we could pull up for reference?
The issue is not yet created. The version command is already created, but the issue for Logos is not yet created.
Okay.
Actually, I talked about the last development meeting, but I didn't create it then. I just missed all the details that we need. So I just
Yeah, so let me see if I can, I'm trying to better articulate your question. So if I build the current version of Meshery CTL, okay, if we run this version, I believe it should have, yep, it has your new subcommand, Meshery CTL version. This is what you're asking about, right? The formatting, like the potential removal of this info right here.
yes, Lee. Actually, I was talking about that.
Cool. So I don't know if this answers your question. For my part, I think it would be nice if we could, this to me is extraneous, and it would be nice maybe if we could remove info and this number and simply show version. In this case, it's a dev version, but normally it would show the actual version number. Was that your question, or was your question more like, hey, I know that we want to remove this, but I'm not quite sure how to go about that?
Actually, before we were using FMT to just print out the messages that we want. So that way we can do that. I was thinking about just we need to remove the timestamp and some other details that extra details that are shown in Windows system. Like if Nino can
Yeah.
bring out the message function. it would be great if
Right.
you can see that.
You want it now?
If you would, if you have it.
Yeah, just let me.
Now, is the formatting of that output, is that based on format templates in Logos?
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay.
Just a second, sorry. Let me see. Post status. Okay. Just a second. Okay. Good. Let me share. I don't know where I was. If I downloaded the. It's not the latest one. It's the same as last week, just in case.
Okay.
Yeah. Let me go to the terminal so I can zoom better. Meshery. You mean this one, right?
Right.
Yes.
Okay. So in terms of the Meshery CTL code that you're using here, you're not accounting for whether or not Meshery CTL is being run on Windows or on Linux. It's the same logos and format template that's being used. Is that right, Anand?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I for my part, I'm not educated enough on logos format templates to understand what would need to change here in order to differentiate. I mean, first of all, there's kind of two issues. One is, hey, we'd like to get rid of that extraneous information. The user doesn't need to know that the current time is this time, like, because they already know that. They don't need to know that the message that they're seeing is an info level message, because that's what status is. It's info. And they don't need the actual message annotated, like message equals Meshery status. They just need to see Meshery status.
Okay. So we can do one thing, like without using loggers, we can use just if we use loggers, then I think info will be printed like the same as it was printing on your terminal.
Yeah. Although, yes, that's true what you're saying. Although, my hope would be that if you go down the path of saying, okay, on Linux, we'll use logos, on Windows, we'll use something else, that you'll end up with a bunch of switch statements, a bunch of kind of messy code. That ideally it would be more of a compile time. Well, yeah, ideally you would find a logos format template that gives you better control and a consistent formatting, irrespective of whether it's Windows or Linux. I mean, I hold out hope that.
Yeah, so Loggers has this text formatter. And with that text formatter, we can actually turn off some of these capabilities. What I can probably do is I can maybe give it a test and then send the information to Anand so he can actually maybe integrate it into Meshery CTL completely.
Nice.
Yes. Does that work, Anand?
Yeah, sure.
Awesome, dude. Sure, let's do that. Yeah, because one of the good things with using a structured logging framework like Logris is that you can actually have n number of logs, but then you can actually have them set to different logging levels so that when an end user is using Meshery, like he doesn't need to know all the debug logs like you have going. But then when you are doing development, it'll be very helpful to actually see all the debug logs. If you use FMT, you actually lose all that. And and if we need to have those capabilities as to turn some logs on and off, we will have to land up writing if blocks, which is definitely not the best approach. So using a logging, like a structured logging framework is very, I would say, important, from both an end user perspective and a developer perspective. So I'll say, let's try this out. If this doesn't work, then let's look for some other alternatives. It shouldn't be hard, is my guess. I have customized the logging formats before, but I'm not sure, if we can strip out, many of the components which we have now. Well, I mean, but I'm pretty sure it should be possible. So I'll take a look at it and probably get back to on.
Nice.
Yeah, I just while you were talking, I just redid git clone and I run the the version, and you can see that it shows like the full thing also.
Yeah, it's
Nice.
this is important enough to spend some time on because it, boy, like the Meshery CTL version really, this example exacerbates the effect of a bunch of other extraneous information that you have to parse through just to get to dev as the version number. Yeah. Nice. Okay. Great topic, Anand.
Nice. Great. Yeah, actually, I had something to say that the version is not currently is not showing the current like 1.2.3 or 1.1.3 because it's not gone through the build process yet. So for default, it's in dev, and when the Meshery build will be done, so I think it will be 1.1.3 or whatever the new version will be.
Lee, can you actually download the Meshery CTL binary from GitHub and run the same command, or you or Nuno, one of you guys,
Sure.
you can actually download the Meshery CTL binary that's built by our CI, and run Meshery version, Meshery CTL version, and can you guys validate or check if it is printing the latest version, or is it still printing dev?
Okay, I will again. It's train time soon. I will definitively do it, and I will send it either into how do you say into a GitHub issue or something like that. I will have a look. If but you meaning this one, right? You meaning like I go just here where Lee is into the latest release, and then I download the 03 one. Okay.
Correct. Yes. Correct.
We'll try it. Maybe I will even ping you in Slack during the train time.
Awesome. Sounds good, Nuno.
All right. So take care, everyone.
Thank you, Nuno. Yeah.
Hey, have a safe trip and a good weekend.
Thank you. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, I guess just to wrap that up, I did a quick download of the last produced Meshery CTL binary, and that's in my downloads folder. Oops. So I'll go into Meshery CTL. I'm not even sure which is the latest. Yeah, it's the 3.1 Darwin.
Correct, yes.
Wow. Maybe I should just take this. So we have the latest Meshery here, hopefully. So I think the issue here that we haven't made a release of
Oh,
Meshery.
right. Oh, that makes sense. Yes, we have to cut a release, for it to be able to, do that. Otherwise, it's not going to work. Yes, correct.
But Anand, the behavior that you have right now, where it outputs dev in lieu of a version number, that makes total sense to me because that was in dev mode that I had built Meshery CTL and was running it. So I think that that's a good behavior that you have, where if they're building locally, you show dev, but if it went through the CI process and was being released through CI, then there would be a tag. When it's being released, the fact that it's being released requires having a tag present. The tag will always equal the version number. And so I think what you've done for Meshery CTL version makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah, it's nice. And actually, I meant to cut a release last time, but we just had KubeCon going on and things. Part of cutting the release, does anyone else part of cutting the release is to use Brew, or make sure that Brew and that package is being built appropriately, because I should be able to run like a Brew upgrade Meshery CTL or a Brew install Meshery CTL to get the latest version of Meshery CTL through the Brew packaging. Does anyone else on the call use Brew? Oh, Anand is very good. So I guess when we do this next release, Anand, there's kind of two things to test: a Brew upgrade Meshery CTL, which, by the way, we don't have document, and Gungeon uses Brew as well. Okay, we don't have documentation. That Meshery upgrade, I'm sorry, Brew oh, good Lord. The Brew upgrade Meshery CTL, that is not documented anywhere. This will actually be the first release, I think, of Meshery CTL since we've created the Brew package. So there's a couple of items in there, I think, for us to do. And by us, I mean you guys to do. And that is a little bit of documentation update. I know Gungeon, actually, I know you're working on the documentation update on the Layer 5 IO Meshery page. I know you're working on including Brew as an alternative set of instructions. And so in the Meshery docs, we need to take an action item. We need to take an issue to go update the Meshery docs to include Brew upgrade Meshery CTL and confirm that works. So we'll kick off a release now. We'll kick off a release today. So what'll that be? That'll be 03.2, I think.
Yeah.
Nice. So that'll be like, Anand, for you, that'll be the third time, I think, that we've made a release based on changes that you've made. So you seem to be our impetus for making releases. It's good. Your contributions are pushing the project forward.
Nice.
Okay. Anybody have anything else? We're at time. Pavan, good to see you today too. It's happy Thanksgiving, man.
No, happy Thanksgiving to you and to everyone.
I'm fatter for it. But it's a good fat. It's like a happy fat. So. Oh, very cool. Pavan, any items? I think last time we spoke, you ended up wrapping up all of the EKS work, I think.
Yeah, I think that is done, right? Like, so I need to take some of the tasks too. I mean, like, in fact, I didn't take any of the tasks from the past 2 weeks. Yeah, it's like I will take and I will update you. Okay.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. Please. There's a few out there.
Yeah, sure, definitely.
You know what? Actually, one of them, I'm not sure if this is documented.
I do documented that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, very good. Rather, I was speaking in advance of myself. I'm not sure if this next thing I'm about to say is documented, and that is that the script that we use to generate the kubectl config. I'm sorry, not the kubectl config. The script that we use to generate the kube config.
Okay.
If you could, can you go look and see? I think we have one for GKE and one for EKS.
Right.
And if that is still appropriate, that's great. And it may still be appropriate. I think the thing that we were going to try to do there, now that I'm refreshing my memory, is we were going to try to take that script and build that functionality into Meshery CTL itself, so that there didn't. Yeah, and I know that's slightly, maybe that's slightly to the side of your focus. If it isn't, please take a crack at it. Maybe this is a good time to ramp up on your Go. But if it's off to the side for you, then Anand, just given your focus on Meshery CTL, there's another use case for you there. So. And then good. And then I think Gunjan, you said you want to talk about issue number 21, and so.
Yes, sir. Sir, in the issue number 246, I made some mistakes. So you told me to separate the update to Meshery.html from that pair. So what I should do now? So should I make another branch and uh, solve that problem again, or I can do something from that branch?
That's a good question. So this is actually good for everyone to hear, I think, because this happens to all of us. And what has happened here is that Gunjan is knocking out 2 issues, and he's created 2 separate pull requests, one for each issue, which is appropriate. It's great. The first issue was on updating instructions on how to use Brew for installing Meshery CTL, and it's great. And he's working on those. And that means that he only needs to change one file. That one file in that case is just the Meshery HTML file. But what's ended up happening to him is, okay, and so that's one issue. And then he's working on a separate issue where he's bringing in some templates for GitHub issue templates. And what's happening is both of those changes are being submitted into the same pull request, and he would like to keep them separate so that he can, so that we can review and consider those changes independently. The ideal thing that will end up happening, Gunjan, is the way that you can keep these separate is that in your fork, so you have a fork of the layer 5 repo itself, and that's under your Gunjan Mimo org. In your org, you have
Yes,
a copy. You even have a branch called Brew Installation Update. That's awesome. That's a great name for the branch. You're working on Brew Installation Update. The other thing that you're working on is the issue template updates, which is probably this one here, issue templates. So that's great. You've got 2 separate branches. What has happened is in your local environment. So what has happened is you're doing the right thing by having 2 different branches locally to work on 2 separate issues. What has happened, I believe what has happened is that there have been changes in the layer, the original, the upstream repo. Layer 5 here is the up. I hope I'm sharing my screen. Good. Am I not sharing my screen this whole time? Again, damn it. It'd be helpful if I was sharing my screen. The layer 5 repo, this is the upstream for Gungeon, and it's the upstream for me. It's the upstream for all contributors. There's I believe the way that you can fix this Gungeon is by doing a synchronization between the changes in. I think your local copy of your fork is out of date with the sync to master here, or to this upstream. And it's a little bit confusing actually as to why both of your PRs have both sets of your changes, because those are in two different branches. So that's a little bit confusing, but I do see this issue happening to people a lot where you're submitting a set of changes and all of a sudden you end up seeing changes from somewhere else showing up. That issue is very much the effect of your local fork being out of date with the upstream. So you need to check out the upstream and merge from upstream into your local copy. That will actually fix the issue where you're seeing files that you didn't change showing up inside of a PR. The second issue that you have going on here, though, is I don't know why for this first PR, why it's showing these other changes, because I think you've probably accidentally synced multiple branches. To fix this for the small changes one, what you can do is just
Okay, sir. So, okay, sir.
what you can do
There
is
one more. I have one more.
no, go ahead. Yep, I
Hello,
think.
sir.
Yep, no, I think the answer for the small changes issue that you have is on this one. You'll end up checking out your local branch for small changes. It's the brew installation update branch. You will delete these issue templates, or like basically, pull them out of there because they shouldn't be in that branch, and then you'll resynchronize this brew installation branch. You'll resubmit those changes to this PR. You'll push those back to this upstream branch. That will fix this PR. And you pretty much do that for the other PR as well. For PR 246, you go into this issue templates branch and remove the work that you've done for Meshery HTML. I mean, they just got cross-threaded. So I know Git is confusing and is difficult in this regard. Garish, do you have any other instructions that you would give there?
No, that was pretty precise. Yeah, keeping the upstream, keeping your branch and the upstream in sync is the only way to go. Yeah, unfortunately. Cool. Shubham seems to have volunteered to work with Gungeon.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, thank you. Because I know even what I described, I know that it's hard to internalize, like to go off and be successful fixing it. So yeah, so thanks for that, Subham, because that'll help. All right. Well, we did a good job of going 10 minutes after. If anyone has other things, you just message them in the channel. We'll get to those. Awesome. Okay. I'm going to be out at reInvent next week. Don't let that make you shy in the Slack channel, though. So we'll catch all of you guys. I mean, so we are having our community meetings next week, both the one on Wednesday and the one on Friday. So please come.
So it's 2 times in a week.
Say it again, Pavan.
Is that 2 times a week?
It is. There's Pavan. There's a
Oh, I was not aware of that.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the other one is this one. We end up giving a bunch of general updates about what's going on in the community, etc. But the one on Wednesday is a bit more focused on like, let's talk about a specific issue and work through it, and that one you are more than welcome to attend. That would be wonderful. We can work through some of your issues, as you know, the thing. We can look at your work as well. I think what you want to do is go grab here on any of the Meshery pages. You should be able to grab a calendar link. So I'm going to show it here. On layer5io/Meshery, there's a community calendar. I'll give you this link, but if you click it, it should say, oh, hey, do you want to subscribe to the Layer 5 community calendar? And when you do, you will then see all of the meetings that are on that community calendar, which there are really only 2 at the moment, but I think Jesus is going to be starting up another one.
Sure, definitely.
Cool. Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah. See you guys soon. Talk to you guys later. Okay. Bye, Subham. Bye, Anand. See you, Pavan.
Bye, everyone. Bye. Thanks.
See you guys. Bye.